In the vastness of the apocalypse, where mysteries intertwine with revelations, John invites us to enter a unique and impressive scenario. In his vision, he transports us to the heavenly throne, where the story of the Bible takes on a new dimension. Imagine being in front of a sealed book, where each seal holds unfathomable secrets. It is not just an ordinary book, but the center of a revelation that would forever change the course of humanity. A sealed book in antiquity was not something trivial. It symbolized something reserved for a few, something of extreme importance, like a will or a prophecy waiting for the right moment to be unveiled. Thus, John presents us with the riddle of the 7 seals, preparing us for what is to come. Around this throne, we see heavenly beings, angels in a majestic choir, and the Lamb who is worthy to open the seals. The language used in the Bible story is not merely descriptive. It carries with it the depth of biblical teachings, reflecting the eternal struggle between good and evil. God's throne is not just a symbol of power, but of justice and mercy. Every detail in John's vision is loaded with meaning, showing us that nothing in the story of the Bible is by chance. Everything has a greater purpose, destined to bring to light the truth that liberates. When thinking about the meaning of a sealed book, we are invited to reflect on our own lives. What are the secrets that we still keep sealed in our hearts? The book of Revelation is not just a collection of ancient biblical stories. He is a mirror that challenges us to seek truth amid chaos. The heavenly setting described by John, with its splendor and mystery, reminds us that there is more to life than meets the eye. And like John, we are also called to open the seals that lock our understanding and delve into the depths of biblical teachings. As the first seal waits to be unveiled, we feel the growing tension, the anticipation of something great about to be revealed. The sealed book is a powerful symbol, a metaphor for the mysteries that await those who have the courage to seek. But what will happen when the first seal is opened? What awaits us when the mysteries begin to be revealed? This is the question that takes us to the next step of this journey, where the knight on the white horse makes his triumphal entry. When the first seal is broken, a knight appears before John's eyes on an imposing white horse. The vision is of an enigmatic figure, bearing a bow and being crowned with a crown. He leaves winning and to win, bringing with him the promise of achievements. In the history of the Bible, this knight has generated intense debates among scholars who seek to uncover his true identity. Some see it as a symbol of victory and spiritual achievement, perhaps even representing Christ on his triumphant mission. Others, however, interpret him as a false messiah, a figure who deceives and seduces, paving the way for the chaos to come. The strength and majesty of this knight are undeniable, but his ambiguity leaves room for reflection. Who is this knight, and what does he really represent? Interpretations vary, but all agree that it carries significant weight in the history of the Bible. The white horse, the color of purity and victory, can symbolize the hope of a new beginning or the harbinger of false security. The achievements he brings can be seen as spiritual victories where faith triumphs over doubt, or as warnings about the dangers of following leaders who promise the impossible. The impact of the first seal on humanity cannot be underestimated. He challenges us to question the authority figures in our lives and to discern between true leadership and illusion. In biblical history, many leaders emerged promising freedom and salvation, but few actually fulfilled those promises. This rider on the white horse reminds us of the importance of seeking the truth, of looking beyond appearances, and of understanding that not all victories are what they seem. The message here is clear: not everything that glitters is gold, and not every crown is given by divine merit. As the knight advances, winning and to win, a restlessness grows. Is he a hero or a harbinger of something darker? And what will happen when the next seal is broken? These questions lead us to the next chapter of this apocalyptic journey, where peace is disrupted and the world is thrown into the chaos of war. When the second seal is broken, a new rider emerges, this time riding a fiery red horse. Its mission is clear: to bring peace from the earth, plunging nations and peoples into conflicts and wars. The image is frightening because where there was once order, now disorder reigns. The sword he carries is the symbol of destructive power, capable of tearing apart friends, families, and entire nations. The story of the Bible teaches us that war has always been a consequence of turning away from God, and this night comes to remind us of the terrible price of division and hatred. The red horse, with its intense and violent color, represents the blood spilled in endless battles. This seal makes us reflect on the countless conflicts that have plagued humanity throughout the history of the Bible, from the battles of the ancient Israelites to modern wars. It is not just a vision of the past, but a warning about what may yet come. The wars that the night brings are not only physical, but also spiritual, where the fight between good and evil intensifies. The sword he wields cuts both bodies and souls, leaving deep scars on those who survive. The spiritual and physical consequences of war are devastating. On a spiritual level, war leads to the weakening of faith, the loss of hope, and the growth of despair. Physically, it brings destruction, hunger, and pain. Biblical history shows us how wars shape the destinies of entire peoples, destroying cities and civilizations. This red night is a grim reminder that peace is fragile and that war, once started, can spread like an uncontrollable wildfire. He challenges us to seek peace, even in times of great turmoil, and to remember that biblical teachings call us to be peacemakers in a world that often delights in violence. And so, as the land is filled with the sound of swords and the screams of warriors, the red night moves on, leaving a trail of destruction. But what happens when hunger joins war? The third seal brings a new revelation, and with it, a new rider approaches, bringing with him hunger and scarcity. Upon breaking the third seal, a mysterious knight appears, riding a horse black as night. He brings with him a pair of scales, and the vision John describes is a clear representation of hunger and scarcity. The scales, a symbol of justice, now measure food with severe precision, reflecting a time when basics became luxury. In the history of the Bible, hunger has always been a consequence of human errors, whether due to poor management of resources or greed that consumes what should be shared. This night is a grim reminder that abundance is not guaranteed, and that carelessness can turn plenty into misery. The symbolism of the scales in the knight's hands is profound and disturbing. It forces us to reflect on how our daily actions impact the distribution of resources around the world. The inequality we see today, with a few living in excess while many suffer in poverty, is a direct reflection of what this seal represents. Biblical teachings warn us about the importance of being fair, especially when dealing with those in need. The scale also teaches us that, in the end, everything will be weighed and measured, and the choices we make will have their consequences. The hunger that this night brings is not just a lack of food, but also a hunger for justice and compassion. When scarcity sets in, it's not just bodies that suffer, but souls too, as hopelessness takes hold. Bible history is full of examples of how famine can drive people to desperate acts, from the plagues in Egypt to the times of tribulation predicted in Revelation. This rider on the black horse reminds us that true hunger is that of the soul, which calls for a world where justice prevails and where no one needs to measure their food in fear of tomorrow. As the Black Knight rides, scarcity spreads, affecting every aspect of human life. But what comes next? The fourth seal awaits, and with it, the most feared of horsemen, the one who brings death in his wake, mounted on a pale horse and haunted by Hades. When the fourth seal is broken, the vision that unfolds before John is the most terrifying yet. A knight riding a pale yellow horse, the very personification of death. This knight does not ride alone, for Hades, the realm of the dead, follows closely behind, collecting the souls that fall in his path. In the history of the Bible, death has always been seen as the great leveler, the final destiny that everyone faces. But this knight is not just a representation of natural death. He is the herald of mass death, caused by war, famine, and pestilence. His path is marked by devastation, and his presence brings a cold that freezes even the most resolute souls. The pale yellow horse, with its sickly color, is a clear symbol of decomposition, of life fading away and the body returning to dust. The death this night brings does not discriminate. It is universal and inevitable. In biblical history, death is both a consequence of sin and a passage to eternity. This night reminds us that despite all human efforts to escape mortality, in the end, we must all face divine judgment. Death, as described here, is not only physical, but also spiritual, where souls are lost because they have strayed from biblical teachings. The presence of Hades alongside this night further increases the terror of his arrival. Hades is not just a place, but a state of existence separated from God, where lost souls suffer from their disconnection with the divine. The story of the Bible teaches us that true death is not that of the body, but that of the spirit that turns away from the light. The rider on the pale horse is a powerful reminder that life is brief and that our actions have eternal consequences. He calls us to reflect on the fragility of life and the importance of being prepared for what comes next. And so, as the Death Knight continues his dark ride, gathering souls in his wake, the fifth seal waits to be unveiled. What will be revealed when the next seal is broken? The answer takes us to the heavenly altar, where the souls of the martyrs cry out for justice, and the next chapter of this apocalyptic journey begins. When the fifth seal is opened, the view changes to a heavenly setting, where John sees the souls of those who were killed for their faithfulness to the Word of God and the testimony they gave. These souls, under the altar, cry out for justice, asking, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, will you not judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth?" In the history of the Bible, martyrdom has always been seen as the supreme sacrifice, an unshakable demonstration of faith and dedication to God. These souls represent all those who suffered and died for remaining firm in biblical teachings, refusing to deny their faith even in the face of death. The cry of these souls is powerful and resonates through the ages. They do not cry out for personal revenge, but for divine justice, for the fulfillment of God's promises. The history of the Bible is full of examples of men and women who, in the face of persecution, chose the path of martyrdom, knowing that their sacrifice would not be in vain. This seal reminds us that although the world may seem unfair and cruel, God hears the cries of the righteous and, at the right time, will bring justice. The souls beneath the altar are a powerful reminder that faith is not in vain, and that the sacrifice of those who suffered will be honored. The meaning of martyrdom, therefore, goes beyond suffering and death. He is a living testimony of faith and trust in God, proof that, even in the most difficult circumstances, biblical teachings continue to guide and inspire. The history of the Bible shows us that martyrdom is one of the highest forms of expression of faith, where the spirit triumphs over the flesh. These souls who cry out for justice are the voices of all those who, over the centuries, kept the flame of faith alive, even when darkness threatened to extinguish it. As we hear the cry of these souls, we are led to reflect on our own lives and faith. What are we willing to sacrifice for the truth? How do we stay strong in the face of adversity? The fifth seal leaves us with these questions and prepares us for the revelation of the sixth seal, where the earth and heaven convulse, announcing that the end is near. When the sixth seal is broken, earth and heaven seem to enter into a chaotic and terrifying dance. A great earthquake shakes the world. Mountains are moved from their places, and islands disappear into the sea. The sun becomes black as a sack of hair shirt, the moon becomes red as blood, and the stars from the sky fall to the earth, like figs falling from a fig tree shaken by a strong wind. In the history of the Bible, these cosmic signs have always been understood as omens of cataclysmic events, moments in which God's power manifests itself in an unquestionable way. This seal shows us that the entire creation is involved in the divine plan, and that, at the end of time, even the cosmos will be shaken. The fear spreading among nations is palpable. Kings and powerful, rich and poor, all run to hide in caves and among the rocks of the mountains, begging the mountains to fall on them, hiding them from the wrath of the Lamb. This universal fear reminds us that in the face of divine judgment, there is no position or wealth that can offer protection. The story of the Bible often warns us about the ephemerality of human power and the inevitability of judgment. The sixth seal confronts us with this reality. On the day of the Lord, everyone will be judged by their actions, and no one will be able to escape the gaze of God. Cosmic signs also have a deep spiritual meaning. They not only herald the end of times, but also symbolize the breakdown of the established order. The darkened sun, red moon, and falling stars are signs that the world as we know it is being undone. In the story of the Bible, these images are powerful metaphors for the destruction of evil and the beginning of a new era. The sixth seal, therefore, is not only a message of destruction but also of renewal, preparing the way for the restoration that will come after the judgment. As the earth shakes and the heavens shake, silence settles for a brief moment, as if the cosmos is holding its breath. What will come next? The interval between the seals offers us a vision of hope and protection, where God's chosen ones are sealed, guaranteeing that, even in the midst of chaos, the divine promise of salvation will be fulfilled. After the turmoil caused by the sixth seal, a brief interval appears, bringing with it a moment of hope and protection. John sees 4 angels in the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the winds, preventing them from blowing over the earth, the sea, or the trees. This moment of pause is crucial, because before the final judgment continues, something extraordinary happens. 144,000 people, from all the tribes of the children of Israel, are sealed in the forehead. In the story of the Bible, being sealed by God is a symbol of divine protection, an assurance that regardless of the tribulations that lie ahead, these chosen ones will be preserved. Who are these 144,000 and why are they sealed? This number has generated numerous interpretations over the centuries. Some see it as a literal number, representing the direct descendants of Israel who remained faithful. Others interpret it as a symbolic number, representing the totality of believers who, in the midst of adversity, maintained their faith unshakable. In Bible history, the number 12 has a special meaning, often associated with the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 apostles, suggesting that these 144,000 represent the fullness of God's people of both the Old and New Testaments. The role of these 144,000 in the apocalypse is a mystery, but what is known is that they are protected for a special mission. In biblical history, God has always preserved a faithful remnant, a group that would be used to restore and renew. These sealed ones are living proof that, even in the midst of judgment, divine mercy is not forgotten. They are the sign that the promise of salvation is still in force and that God will not abandon his own, even in the darkest moments. And while these 144,000 are sealed, John sees a great multitude, which no one could number, from every nation, tribe, people and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes and with palm branches in their hands. This vision leads us to reflect on the universality of salvation, where God's grace extends to all who seek him. But what happens when the seventh seal is finally opened? The answer to this question takes us to the heavenly silence and the revelation of the 7 trumpets, which will bring with them new judgments. When the seventh seal is finally opened, what follows is not an immediate cataclysm, but something even more unsettling, a profound silence in heaven that lasts about half an hour. This silence is almost palpable, as if all of creation is waiting, holding its breath before a terrifying revelation. In the story of the Bible, silence often precedes moments of great importance, a space of time for reflection and preparation. Here, it marks the beginning of something new, the prelude to the 7 trumpets that will soon sound, bringing with them even more intense judgments. This silence is not empty, it is full of meaning. In the midst of this moment of stillness, John sees the 7 angels standing before God, and they are given 7 trumpets. Each trumpet, when blown, will herald a new judgment, a new phase in apocalyptic history. Trumpets, in the history of the Bible, have always been used as warning signals, calling God's people to attention, to battle, or to worship. Here, they have a dual purpose, announcing divine judgment and, at the same time, offering a last chance to repent before the end definitively arrives. As the silence continues, an angel approaches the altar with a golden censer. He receives much incense to mix with the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar that is before the throne. The smoke of incense, with the prayers of the saints, rises before God, representing the continuous connection between the divine and the human. The prayers of the saints, those who persevered in faith, play a crucial role here, showing that even in the darkest moments, God hears and responds to the pleas of his people. In the history of the Bible, prayers have always been a powerful means of communicating with God, and here they take on an even deeper meaning. With trumpets ready to sound and prayers rising like incense, the 7th seal leaves us on the brink of a new series of apocalyptic events. What will these trumpets bring? How does the story of the Bible prepare us for what is to come? As the silence dissipates, trumpets prepare to echo throughout creation, announcing final judgments and the nearness of the end times. As the 7 seals are broken and the mysteries of Revelation are revealed, we are confronted with the magnitude of the divine plan and God's absolute power over all creation. Every seal, every rider, and every vision reminds us that the story of the Bible is a living narrative, where the end and the beginning are deeply interconnected. The outcome of the 7 seals is not just a story of destruction, but a preparation for renewal, where divine justice prevails and evil is finally defeated. It is a time of judgment, but also of hope, where the faithful are rewarded for their perseverance and faith. Hope in the New Jerusalem is the culmination of this apocalyptic narrative. In biblical history, the New Jerusalem symbolizes the fulfillment of God's promises, a place where there will be no more tears, death, or pain. This city, described with so much beauty and perfection, is the final destination of the righteous, a place of eternal peace where God will dwell with his people. The story of the Bible has always pointed to this moment, where chaos gives way to divine order and where faith is rewarded with the glorious vision of eternity. The New Jerusalem is not just a place, but a promise that the suffering of this world is not in vain. As we reflect on what the book sealed with 7 seals teaches us, we are reminded that faith requires perseverance, especially in times of trouble. The story of the Bible is full of biblical teachings that encourage us to stand firm, confident that God is faithful to his promises. The unveiling of the end is, in fact, the beginning of something new and glorious, an invitation to all who believe in divine goodness and justice. It is a story of redemption, where darkness is overcome by light, and where every tear shed is finally wiped away. And so, as the echoes of the seals fade and John's vision comes to an end, we are left with deep reflection on our own journey. What are we willing to sacrifice to achieve the New Jerusalem? How can we apply biblical teachings in our daily lives to ensure that on the final day, we will be among those who will see the face of God? The answer to these questions is what will guide us to the next part of this great narrative, where each step brings us closer to the fulfillment of the divine promise. If you're interested in having a Bible like the one we use in our studies, check out the link in the first pinned comment. If you enjoy our content and can support our channel, consider buying us a coffee through Buy Me a Coffee. Additionally, if you can purchase a crucifix, we also have a link in the first pinned comment. We greatly appreciate your support. God bless, and see you in the next video.